A very good afternoon, good evening, and a good morning to all my wonderful students who are present here for our day's second session on our practical life skills, wherein we are going to be learning exclusively on sensory education. The world of Montessori education is full of wonders. We believe that and we know that because we believe the understanding of the nuances of sensorial education, which is not only helping my children to enhance the knowledge but also inspiring each of you teachers to learn something new every day and teach with those experiences every day. So, thank you very much for joining me in today's session. Your active participation is what I would request and take it from you. So, before we get started very much into our sensorial lessons, we need to understand this principle was developed by whom? The principle of Montessori education was started by Dr. Montessori, and we saw in the previous classes like what were some of the five important areas that Dr. Montessori developed and enriched. But again, now the second important area in our practicals is about the sensory education. So according to Dr. Montessori, sensorial experiences begin right when the child is born. Yes, the moment that the mother holds the child in her arms, a sense of touch, she keeps singing the lullabies to the child. Again, the child is able to hear the lullaby, right? So the child also starts to learn everything and perceive from their environment, all the senses. So every time when child participates in these sensory activities, they're consciously gaining some information. Every day becomes a new learning for all of us. Every day that the child is taking up some information and they're able to classify everything around their surroundings. So this is going to be a very wonderful stepping stone for our little ones to work on the intelligence parameter. But what do we do here? We go to set up a prepared environment. So as teachers, we promise on that. And when we start giving that environment, now the second thing is like the children should have the ability to adapt to that environment. Now, what is environment? The place at which you are actually working, or the place at which that you give a choice for a child to actually start working on. So it's more important that we have to understand why should we give such activities. If at all, if I'm giving it in my classes, is there any relevance? Is it so important for me? Is what I have to be working on. Now, when you get into your Montessori classroom, your class is so ordered, every material is so very well planned and kept. That means it indirectly is helping the child to learn on discipline. It is helping the child to discriminate, separate the objects from one and another because everything is placed in order. So this refines and broadens the child's senses in learning all of that. So what is the first thing? I'm able to see my materials, how it has been displayed. That's the first visual skill that I'm going to be working on. When the child is able to see, and when the child is able to combine with all those materials, like how they work with, they become better in their logical skills. And they are very much aware and they take up that responsibility to use the material and to also keep it back. Now, why do we do that? Do we have a purpose of doing the sensory exercises, or just go back? Go back to your classroom. Now, say, suppose you have kept something nice and fascinating in your class. As soon as your child enters into the class, what do? They go and they touch that material, right? They want to touch that material, they want to explore what is that, they would see, they would shake it, they will see is there any kind of a sound or something. So this is considered to be as a sensorial experience. When a child touches an object, when a child feels that object, when a child sees that object, when the child is able to hear the sound of that particular object, that means the child is learning through his senses. The child is perceiving things in his environment and learning everything from that. So he understands his environment much better. And that's when we take it through and we put them as sensorial learners. This is what Dr. Montessori also said. Children are sensorial explorers right from the time of birth. Now, when they come to your class, what are those activities that you give? So you have to work on exercises which is going to help on the sensorial development of a child. For example, the first activity is anything which is related to my sizes. Now I can have two balls, the playing balls or two beads. Maybe the sizes of those beads can be differing. Some of the size Sizes can be big, some can be small. The child started looking at those. They got that visual perception. Oh, this is big, this is small, this is large, this is small. What about the shape? This is square, this is rectangle, this is triangle. What about the composition? How is it made? Is it a cube? Is it a cuboid? What is that? Is it an ovoid? What is that particular material? What is its texture? When I'm holding it, is it rough? Is it smooth? When I'm playing with that, does it make any noise? Is it loud? Is it soft? Can I match it with some other exercises? What about its weight? What is its natural temperature? So all these things will be perceived by a child's senses. So in our sensorial education, we would be covering all these qualities in our lessons. Now, broadly, we classify into 8 sensorial exercises. Okay, so we were working on visual sense, that we know that we have 5 sense organs. We see with our eyes, so that's our sense of sight. We also call it as visual sense. We touch with our skin, so it's a sense of touch. It's called the tactile sense. Every time that you're touching something, when you're holding something, you can also feel its weight, correct? Is it heavy? Is it light? Anything which is related to my weights is called my baric sense in Montessori. Now, each time when I'm holding an object, I can also sense the temperature of that, right? So when I'm working on temperatures, I can say, is it hot? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it tepid? Right? So when I'm working on the temperatures, it becomes my thermic sense. Now I can listen to the sound of that particular object. So I'm using my sense organ ears. That becomes my auditory sense. Now I'm smelling. Is it a good smell? Is it a bad smell? Is it a pleasant one? Is it a pungent one? Anything which is related to my sense of smell, using my nose as my sense organ, I call it olfactory sense. If I would like to taste something, and if I have to distinguish my taste between, is it sweet? Is it sour? Is it bitter? Is it salty? Is it spicy? It is all helping with my sense organ. My sense organ tongue helps me to distinguish between all of that. So anything which is related to a sense of taste is called the gustatory sense. But sometimes we get so overwhelmed that we want our children to close their eyes and perform some exercises. Say, for example, in case if I have made, this is my classic example that I keep giving. If I have cooked biryani, when I have a guest stepping into my house, with the smell itself, with the aroma of this itself, they can say, wow, you have cooked such a wonderful meal, isn't it? So they have not seen what I have cooked. They have not tasted whether it is tasty, but my nose helped them to catch that smell and they got into a conclusion, it's very, very tasty. And now when they come back, when I wanted to serve, they look at the color of it. And just by looking at that dish itself, they'll be like, oh, this definitely is going to be yummy. So my eyes are helping me to also add additional points to that meal. So some other senses are being integrated with that. But finally, when I taste it, I'll be like, I'm going to be cherishing that meal. I'll be like, yes, it's really yummy and it's a wonderful meal to actually taste. So indirectly, or I could say only my tongue should have been the judge or the judging criteria who actually comes and tastes the food and tell you, but your nose helped you to smell it, your eyes helped you to see it, right? So then the third thing was your tongue, which actually did that. So you don't want many senses to get integrated if you want to isolate a particular activity. In such cases, you either blindfold the child. So in my case, what I should have done, I should have shut my nose, I should have closed my eyes, then I should have tasted that meal. So I'm only working on stimulating one sense. In such a case, I call this as a stereognostic sense, wherein you purely want the children to work with one particular sense. Say, for example, if I want them to differentiate between soft and hard, if I ask them not to be blindfolded, when I keep a cotton ball and I keep a stone, smart children will definitely say, ma'am, cotton ball will be soft. and the rock is going to be hard. But I don't want that. So what do? I blindfold it and I give them to touch and feel and experience that material. So in that cases, the child is totally dependent on their tactile muscular sense, right? So that is considered to be as your stereognostic sense. So Dr. Montessori did all of that. But we have forgotten to mention another one. Your first sense, what I have listed there, is visual sense. We see so many things around us. Again, that is linked with the colors that you see. Now, say you're looking at me, I'm wearing a yellow t-shirt. You're looking at the presentation has a yellow color thing. So we are going in sync today. Today's meeting, it's going in sync, right? So you are able to see the colors. But again, if you see on the shades of colors, both of the shades are different. So in our colors, when I'm actually seeing, I'm working on my chromic sense or the chromatic sense. This is related to my visual sense itself, but I add it as an extension. Now again there, what kind of materials that you use is your next discussion that we're going to be talking about. So altogether, you have 9 senses in our sensorial work. Please note down, we will be taking a look at all the 9 senses: visual, chromic, tactile, baric, thermic, auditory, gustatory, olfactory, and stereognostic. Visual sense, you see with your eyes. Tactile sense, you touch with your skin. Baric sense, you weigh. Thermic sense, related to temperatures. Auditory sense is hearing. Olfactory sense is a sense of smell. Gustatory sense is a sense of taste. Stereognostic sense is tactile muscular. Chromic sense is related to your colors. Clear? So we have 9 senses to work with that. So what are we going to learn in this segment? We are going to learn how can we use Montessori materials to work on all these 9 senses so that my children will have a better understanding about his environment. The second thing, the knowledge what the child is getting should not be whatever I'm speaking. They should experience it. When I say, is it heavy? They can't just look and say, yes, ma'am, pumpkin is heavy. They have to literally lift a pumpkin. Okay, and then they have to experience. So our entire segment of this is like when you're giving sensory exercises to our children, it shouldn't be only you demonstrating, you showing. You can't say ice cream is cold and soup is hot. You have to literally give them an ice cream to feel. Oh, yes, it's very chill. Okay, when they have to feel it, that is the experience. Or you can give them a bowl of water. You can ask them to dip their hand into it and they can feel the coldness. They can feel the hotness over there. So this is what we're going to be learning. And to do all of that, we need designed materials so that the child is able to work on the sensory experience. So this is our first segment, which gives us just the basic introduction about what is sensory education. What did Dr. Montessori talk about the sensory education? To work on all of that, what are the materials, or why is it important for me to work on my materials? In the next segment, what we have is why we do. What is the science behind we doing it? Now, is there a science? How does our senses work is something that we need to understand it a little better. So in our part 2, we understand the relatability of the science behind it. Before we go into understanding the materials, let's understand how our senses work. Okay, so please make a note. This is our part 2. Now, what we have to understand over here is like we have 5 senses, basic senses. We smell, we hear, we see, we taste, we touch. Now, take a look at the brain here. I've also divided that into 5 parts. So, people will have difficulty in perceiving any one sense if one part of that brain is damaged. Say, for example, that yellow color thing, the sense of touch. If that portion of your brain has a little damage also, people can't feel. They will be insensitive to touch. If the position where I have marked taste, if that portion of your brain is not working, they will not be able to taste it. Okay, so I am wearing my lenses. Maybe my vision is blurry. Maybe this part of my brain doesn't signal really well. So maybe because of that, I'm unable to see it. So there's a science behind all of that. So our brain will start to collect information. And our sense organs are like, the safety warriors for our safety. And something goes wrong, they can alert you. Say, for example, you're in the kitchen or you're in the living room and there is a gas leakage. Your nose immediately alerts you by giving you that pungent smell, and you immediately run to your kitchen, you do your safety measure. When you're walking on a road, the noises of the vehicles coming behind, so your ears will alert you something is just behind you, right? They do act as your safety warriors. So we have to be really good enough to take care about all our sense organs: sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of taste and smell. So all our sense organs are really important for all of us. So what do we do here? So every sensor, whatever we have, they start collecting information about our surroundings. Whatever you see, it sends that signals to your brain. Your brain will use all that information. It keeps it like a memory, and it will help you to understand the world better. Why are you able to understand me? Because there is a picture which is actually shown. So maybe you are also seeing that picture. Since I am also being presented on the same screen, so you're able to relate me and the picture even more better. Now, what if I'm only talking and I don't show you the picture? Maybe only 80% of people will understand. So 20% might still have difficulty. But what if I'm sitting live and explaining it to you, wherein we have all the materials? Maybe you have an exposure to touch that material, to experience, to feel it. So we understand it even more better. That means our brain will start to collect more information because we have a lot more to perceive from our surroundings. It will help you to understand even more better. So that's the reason we tell to teachers, like, every child is different. Every activity should be presented in a hands-on way. The first thing that we do before we get into any of the Montessori materials is you have to work on the visual sense. When your child comes to your class, have a quick eye checkup. How do you do a quick eye checkup? When you're writing something on the board, and if the child is unable to see it, you get a hint. When the child is going closer to the notebook and seeing something, you get a hint. The child is unable to see, so check on that. So this is very important. Keep asking the children, what do you see? Oh, we are seeing a rainbow. Can you tell me the colors in that? Oh, wow, wonderful. Now, if there are shades of yellow, now his hat is yellow, my dress is yellow, and the screen is yellow, but all of them are different shades. So can you see the shades, how they are differing? What are the other objects around you with the same color? Now, I can also talk about things which are very near to me, very far from me. And what do you see? I see animals, birds, friends, my classmates, my classroom stationery, and many more. So, visual sense, you keep doing exercises like this. Try a pinata activity, like, try to hit a pinata at a party, and you can ask the children to be blindfolded and ask them to draw something. They wouldn't be able to draw a tail to a draw something and miss out the tail. Ask the children to draw that tail, and keep them blindfolded, and this is going to be really fun. And then you tell them why you could not do it so perfectly is because you are blindfolded. So your eyes are really important for you to see something and do something. And then you tell them you need to take care of your eyes, and you can also teach them some exercises to keep a good eyesight, right? So all these things can be a little helpful for all of us to actually work. And you go a little deeper for your understanding. You can say to children, like, our eyes are just like cameras, children. It can capture all the pictures, and whatever you see, it just registers into your brain, and you can remember it for a very longer time. So the children will be able to understand the sense of sight. More you ask questions. What did you see? What was the color? Did it look same? Was it different? Did you see this before? Can you show me? Can you bring me that? That all gives them that idea of visual sense. Yes, agree on that? Yes. The second one is related to our auditory sense. We hear, and we know that we hear with our ears. Our ears are like the sensors for our hearing. So they gave a lot of information to our brain about what is the sound that we are hearing, where is the sound coming from, right? So we have to always have you noticed when our ears are not working well, we can't balance when we are walking. It's very important that both our ears work very well. So this is one of the exercises that you can always tell to children, okay? So you have to make sure that they understand that deep inside our ear, we have a special sensor that tells our brain that are you standing right side up, or are you standing on your head? Okay, so that means, are you able to balance it really well is what I'm trying to mean that. So we can also talk about the special shape that our ear has. And I want everybody to do this exercise. Okay, I want everybody to do this exercise. I want all of you to cup your ears this way and say something to yourself. Everybody, say something to yourself. The more you get your ears closer, the more louder your voice would be. Say something. Don't mute. Don't unmute. You can say something. Yeah. So we can hear it louder. And when you keep talking, when you keep pressing it closer, we can hear it even more louder. Isn't it? Try talking. Anything. Say one line. Yeah, try talking. Experience. शिखा कुछ तो बोलो. हाँ, कोई भी सेंटेंस बोलो. अनम्यूट मत करो, ऐसे ही बोलो. अनम्यूट मत करो, ऐसे बोलो. हाँ, जोर से सुनाई दिया. This was with less sound. This was with more sound, right? So this is one thing. So we can always go and tell to children to do this exercise, and we can always say that rabbits have ears very much cupped into it for the safety and all of that. So you can give them these kind of simple exercises for hearing. Okay. So why do we have that? Because our ears draw different sounds and that we hear every day. And all the sounds, they travel through this tunnel inside our ears and they bounce on the tiny piece of our skin, and that is called the eardrum. And whatever sound that the eardrum is able to take it, that sound will be vibrated, and those vibrations will travel to your brain, and that tells you what is that sound. Is it loud? Is it noisy? Is it too soft? Right? So they do that. So what kind of activities I can give? These are not Montessori activities. These are homeschooled ones. Why I'm giving you this is because all the schools will begin with a toddler class. And for toddler class, we might not use Montessori exercises, right? So you can give them a simple xylophone. The more that they tap on it, they would be able to hear different sounds. They're now exploring sounds with different objects. Take them to your kitchen. Give them your spice jars. So every time that they're moving that jars, they would be able to explore the sounds. You can also have sensory jars. What are sensory jars? Take any plastic jar, fill some rice or lentils onto it and give it to a child. Let them shake and hear those sounds. Take them outside. Ask them to sit quietly and ask them to hear the sounds. Let the child explore from where the sound is coming. Is it coming from near, or is it a too far sound? Is it soft sound? Is it a loud sound? Ask them to identify what was that sound. So for this, the child needs to have a very calming effect. So you can calm your child, put them onto silence mode. Then you ask them, now listen carefully. Every time you say listen carefully, you can also whisper. You can also go a little slow and you can say, children, now listen. What is the sound it is? Is it loud or is it soft? You can always have your hand coordination exercises. Ask your child more. Did you hear, children? Was it a loud sound? Was it a soft sound? Was it noisy? Was it pleasant? Where did the sound come from? Was it a high pitch? Was it a low pitch? Did you hear this before? Is it the same sound that it is making? Why I have listed these things is, as teachers, we know it. We know all this. But sometimes, due to the pressure of completing the curriculum, we forget to ask questions to our child. And the child is always rooted back into their classes, doing the same old exercises what the teacher says, and they have never been encouraged to talk. So when I put this as a slide, now you understand that I have to talk. And look at the vocabulary. Did you hear the sound? Was it loud or was it soft? We're still teaching the child the vocabulary of loud sound, soft sound, noisy, pleasant, high pitch, low pitch. Okay, is it the same or was it different? We're also working on the sentence construction also over there. So that's something that you can always work upon it. And we have seen that these could be some of the activities that you can do. The next one, what you can work is on the sense of touch. So sense of touch is related to our skin. So our skin helps us to feel and the touch, and that becomes the sensor for our touch, right? So when the sensor passes on the information about whether it is hot or cold temperatures, or if something is tickling, or even if you have a itch, we would be able to feel that, right? So your skin is actually sensing all of that and sending the information to your brain. So your hands, it could be your lips, it could be the bottom of your feet, they're very sensitive. Okay. And we always have to educate our children to be very careful not to touch anything that is too hot. Right. So because your skin can sense, if it hurts, it can sense. If somebody pinches me, I can feel it. If my skin is burnt, I can still feel it. Right. And we also go like, ouch. So that could be one thing. So what are the activities that I can give? So to begin with, I gather cotton balls, I can gather feathers, small pieces of fleece, harder objects, blocks, toy cars, everything. Put them into a box. Now you can blindfold the child, or you can just give it to the child. Let them pick one after the other and let them sort. So this is a sorting activity. Is it soft or hard? So this is one. The second thing is like, is it rough or smooth? So you can put them into two activities, soft and hard, rough and smooth. So is it rough or is it smooth? So this is one sensory exercise that you will do. Always ask questions. Was it hard? Oh, okay. Was it soft? Was it rough? Was it smooth? Do you find any other object similar to it? Now go find with the same texture. When we keep asking, it becomes easier. The next one is olfactory sense, sense of smell. That is with the help of our nose. The nose is acting like a sensor for smell. And when a smell comes into your nose, we have those special sensors, right? And those sensors will tell our brain what are we smelling. And our brain can remember many different kinds of smells. So this is a fact. So we can remember smells that is better. Sometimes we even smell a person also. Even though if they're not using the deodorant also, we will be able to smell them. We can smell their clothes also, right? So close your eyes. Imagine, how do we do this exercise in our classes? It's a simple activity. So when we close our eyes, we imagine that we are having a yummy chocolate cake in front of you. Children have not seen it, but children can still tell it whether it is a good, whether it smelled good or not. So they take a big sniff. Now you're teaching them a new vocabulary. Let's sniff. And then the air flows into your nose. And from there, over your tiny hairs inside your nostrils. And the hair is the one which is actually sending messages about the smell to your brain. So in this picture, there is a flower, but we avoid giving flowers to smell for children because it involves pollen and it could be little allergic. You can give them any other materials, okay? Like vegetables, fruits or spices, yogurt, food, peppermint, citrus fruits, scented teas. Put them into small bowls and you give them to smell it. Always ask question, did you like the smell? Was it good? Did you like it? Okay, have you smelled this before? All of that. Now I move back to my taste. Now I'm using my tongue, which is a sensor for my taste. So we can distinguish between the different tastes, like, say, um, our taste of sweet, salty, sour, bitter, all of that. So what was your favorite one? Keep asking. Is it sweet? Is it sour? Is it salty or bitter? So whenever we are putting something into our mouth, the taste buds in the tongue will send a message along with the nerves to your brain, and the brain will start recognizing what are you eating. So who's the receptor now? The tongue is a receptor. And it will also tell you, is it hot? Is it cold? Or is it even dangerous? How is it dangerous? Say, for example, if I'm eating fish, my tongue knows it better that I cannot swallow this fish bone because it can be hurtful and I might have a little damage. So that means the sense organs are very, very helpful for a human being. That's the reason we need to take care of them really well. So blend all the fruit juices like banana milkshake, blueberry juice, grape juice, watermelon, strawberry, kiwi. Keep it as a fruit activity in your class. Let every child come up. You can give them a spoon and let them taste and let them tell what did they like the most. So this is up to you. You can do any sort of tasting exercises in your classes, or you can have a snack tray and let the children explore. Is it sweet? Is it salt? Is it sour? Is it bitter? You got to give them a piece. They have to literally take it, eat all of them, all of them. So your plate should be one, a tiny bit of it. Maybe if I'm having a lemon, I can literally give them a drop of the lemon juice. And they can say, ma'am, it's very sour, right? So this can be done. And always ask questions. What taste you liked? Why did you like? It's a great activity for picky eaters usually. So we can always begin for our toddler classes also. Okay. So this is one of the perfect way that we can start exercises if you're not using Montessori. But if you're using a Montessori lesson, these exercises can be an extension to those exercises. Okay. The next after this session is what we would see how Dr. Montessori uses her own materials to work on the same exercises. Not all schools are privileged to do this. If you're a young mother, you can take up all those exercises and you can do it at your home also. There's nothing like, this way is right or that way is wrong. No. Every time you do something, you have to bring the best out of that. The only agenda of this exercise was making sure your child is practicing sensory activities. You want your child to explore through their five senses. You want them to learn to identify these activities through their senses. That's it. Okay. So the next segment or the next part one. So we're going to be quickly disconnecting this meeting in another 1-2 minutes, and then we will rejoin back, wherein we will do a little bit more deeper study on learning about the sensory activities, what we do in a Montessori way. Okay. So we're going to be using on that. Okay. So thank you very much. So I will see you soon. So I would want everybody to rejoin me this particular meeting. Okay. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Rejoin back.